shit. To not deny any of the intervention, but to work on the intervention. So even when you are not accepting, you are giving ground to a further discussion. I think it's much more complicated with the joke. Just a parenthesis. When you will be actors on the forum theater, do the yes but all the time. Don't say no to the spectators. Do the yes but all the time. Okay? Closing the parenthesis. Coming back to the Joker. So the Joker leads to a lot of questioning. It's natural because it's the only new function that exists in a forum theater. You know? This function of the mediator. What is there to know about it? Look, on the philosophical level, let's put it this way, on the most abstract level, what do you need to, as a joker? You need to understand that you are in a contradiction yourself as a joker. What is the contradiction? The practical contradiction that you have to solve. The practical contradiction is that you are here in order to make in such a way that the voice of each one is respected when they go on stage. But you are also here to make in such a way that there is a collective debate about what's happening. So on one side, you must make in such a way that the individuals feel safe to go on stage. On the other hand, you need to make in such a way that it's not just going to be a bunch of people going on stage, but that there's going to be a real collective debate from the audience point of view. You see what I'm saying? Yeah? So you need to make those two things be true at once. On a less abstract level, or other very broad recommendation, still very broad recommendation, the first thing that the joker needs to do is to know his shit. You know, I mean by that, to know the issue that he's talking about. Here, I will joker a little bit, I think, at some point, but I don't know the issue that I'm talking about. But you need to know the issues. You need to know how many people were evicted last year if you are talking about eviction. You need to know the laws to protect those people. You need to know how much the rent rised. You need to know all those stuff, not to deliver speeches with full of information, but to, you know, how you call that in English, I forgot.
Question.
Not only to question, but to sustain everything. You know, when there is someone that comes and says something, you need to know if that thing that the person is saying is true or not. That's a basic thing. So you need to be active in a research regarding the issue that you are dealing with. First thing. The second thing, more practically even in a forum theater, but still on an abstract level, you need to be the last line, to put it this way, that will do in such a way that the forum theater, the process of the forum theater, is told from the perspective of the oppressed. What I'm saying basically is that if there is someone that comes with, anti-LGBTQ opinion, you are on last resource the person that will make in such a way that the dominant speech of hate about LGBTQ will not have another space to be expressed here. You understand what I'm saying? How you do it, does depend on you, does depend on the action, how aggressive is the person or not. This depends on in a lot of factors, but you have to be the last resource to make in such a way that is the oppressed point of view that prevails at the end of the thing. It's a debate, it's democratic, but it's from the perspective of the oppressed. Let's put it this way. If someone says, I'm Jew, the other says, I'm Nazi, you're not going to take, it's so good that we have so many different opinions on stage. Don't do that. As Jean-Luc Godard said, if objectivity is to be 50% of the time for the Jew, 50% of the time for the Nazi, I'm against objectivity. Okay? Is it clear what I'm saying? Okay. Again, how you do it is different from place to place, but I'm telling you the story that is on my mind. Once I was into a country that had a very strange tradition. We have very strange tradition, they have very strange tradition, and that was a specifically, I think, oppressive tradition that's called bride napping. You know what bride napping is? Have you heard about bride napping? It is a woman that's not a bride, that she becomes a bride because she's kidnapped. She's kidnapped on the street, so she's with a friend, maybe the friend sold her out. A van appears in the street, 5 guys get out of the van, put the woman on the van, they bring the woman to the future parents-in-law that examine the bride, they marry the girl forcefully, she was going to be raped the next day. During the night, she goes to her parent the next day and the parents say, look, you're no longer a virgin, you were married, you belong to that house now. It's clear what I'm saying. So we were in several groups over there, we were in different groups. And one group was the only women group. They were making a play about bride napping, and we were showing our plays to each other before going the next day to a school with 400, 500 kids. It was a huge school. They shown the play about bride napping, and then a woman from another group, another woman from another group, jumped in front of the stage, turning her back to the teenager that just presented the play about their fear, about their panic of being bride napping. She turns the back to them and she says, I was bride napped. I was bride napped. I saw my husband was beautiful. Now we have 3 children and they're very happy. You as a joker, especially imagine in a place like this, one in which the teenagers could not tell off the death of the woman. You needed to take action, you need to do something. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what I did, this is relevant, but I'm giving you the most impressive story I was in which you basically I went on stage and I said, look, if tomorrow we are going to present a display in front of the audience, but saying that if you look good, then bride napping is not a problem, I'm not going. Don't call me for that. I'm not going tomorrow for that. So that's one of the things that I said at that moment. But just to give you an example that from time to time you need to take action, because you cannot think. I'm going to the tricks in a moment, but you cannot think that the community that you are working with doesn't have inner contradiction before you enter. The community that you are going to work with, that you are going to work for, have their contradictions already. And you as a foreigner, you're not bringing contradictions. Maybe you are going to bring contradictions. But also you will have to choose, to understand and to choose from each side on your own in those contradictions. Is it clear what I'm saying? Yeah? So, that being said, going to the tricks part of it, just one second. There is no community without contradiction. This thing doesn't exist. The homogeneous contradiction, an homogeneous community, and then arrives the theater of the oppressed person. This is not real. So, going to the tricks. What tricks should you do as a joker? There is, I don't know how many, I know a few, I will give them all. But again, those are tricks, those are not rules, those are not dogmas. You use how do you want to use. The first one of them is, I believe, that is up to the joker to be the guy, the person that will present what's going to happen. We are a group, we created a play about this issue, because we suffer about this issue, and we would like to engage in a dialogue with you, because from this dialogue, maybe we will have, all of us, new perspectives on how to deal with this issue, and that's what we want to foster, new perspective, and so on, and you come and talk. Why it should be the joker? Because I believe it's important for the audience to notice that there is someone that is not another actor, that's not another actress, but that will have a special function all the way. You can, so it's for the audience to recognize you as someone that have a specific role. You can make games with the audience in order to break the ice. You can also not make games, it's up to you to do it. My father loved to make those games. I'm terrible at them, I cannot. But if you want to do it, simple games or not simple games, people were going on stage or not, but you can do it. My father would do, I saw him working for I don't know how many years, it was always the same. I'm going to do one of them with you, but I I feel awkward when I do games with an audience that I don't know. Okay, the game was like this. Take your left hand and do a circle, please. You know this game already? Some of you do know the game already? So, okay, wonderful circles, he would always say. Wonderful, perfect, the best circle I ever saw. And so on and so on. Now you can stop. You can stop, and with the other hand, please make a cross. Make a cross, and then you will always add, if you are not a believer, make a plus sign. That's perfect. It works very well also. Now the easiest part of the three, we are going to do both at the same time. And then people fail miserably. No, you are actually quite good at it. You were better than expected. Okay, so that was one of the games that you would do with the audience before starting as a warming up. If you feel like it, do it. And then it's going to depend on how the theater is situated. A theater like this, a stage like this, you can invite easily people to come on stage. There is games that people can do sit. That's accordingly. Then we'll start the play. When the play starts, I believe that at this point the Joker should be invisible, should not be visible. Why? Because by being invisible, he allows the audience to watch the play. And the most important thing for at this moment is for the people to watch the play. To be invisible doesn't mean that it doesn't have to work. And one of the tricks would be to look at the audience and to try to observe in the audience what are the hot spots of the audience. Who are the people that are reacting the most? That are laughing, that are crying, that are commenting with each other, looking over there. Because then after the play, when you are going to restart a dialogue with the audience, it's very plausible that it's going to be the people that reacted the most that are going to talk first, right? The people that were laughing harder, the people that were commenting a lot, those will be the people that will react the most to the play. Is it clear? Yeah? Okay, so the play ends up, the Joker applauds with the audience, and then he will applaud with the audience. Hopefully the audience will applaud. No? And then starts the moment in which he starts to do a warm-up that I would say that's a more political warm-up, ideological warm-up of the audience. And always, always starting with a closed question and going from closed question to a more open one. Is this a real thing that happens? This thing is real for the group. But do you know people that live situations like this? That live situations that are similar than that? Have you yourself been in situations like this? Did it exist forever in your city, or is something new? And asking questions that are closed at the beginning to then open up. If you start with a question, what do you think of the play? People will not answer. Mm-hmm. But if you start, is this play a reality for you? Yes. Is this then people will say yes, people say no, and so on. Do you believe that the breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Who believes that the breakfast is the most important meal of the day? It's a real question that I'm asking you. Everybody here believes that the breakfast is the most important meal of the day? No. No, you don't believe so? Why don't you believe so?
There's so many other foods at other times of the day.
There is so many other foods at so many other times of the day. Do you agree with what you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all of you agree with what you said. No, you don't agree. Why don't you agree?
I don't agree because that's not why I wouldn't have breakfast. I'm not hungry in the morning.
You are not hungry in the morning.
Energy later on.
Everybody is not hungry in the morning. You are. What are you? Sorry.
Always hungry.
In the morning or all time of the days?
All time.
All time of the days. There's other people that also are hungry all the time of the days.
Not only in the morning.
So you are only hungry in the morning.
It's the only meal that matters.
And that's the only meal that matters to you. And what do you eat in the morning then?
Everything.
Everything. So everybody eats everything in the morning. No, no. So it was a very. I know that it's getting going to get heated if I still continue. So I will stop. But the thing is that you saw that it's a very simple question. There were yes, there were no. And what my job was, and what my job always should be, or most of the time should be as a joker, is that I just reflected the contradiction that existed already within the group. So, start with closed questions, go to one of them and ask that person to develop a little bit, then it's reframe the questions, resend this question to everybody, to have other yeses and no, and then again do the same thing. Yeah, all of us agree? No. Why no? Because of this and that. Do we agree with what that person said? Yes, no. Why not? Why do you agree? Because of this. Why didn't you agree? Because of that. And then you are just mirroring the reflection of the audience. Mirroring the reflections of the audience.
So
You're not going to talk about breakfast right now, are you?
I want to ask, do you ask that question of breakfast, or is
No,
it
no,
something
no, 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 no.
related to the story?
No, no.
That was my simple question.
No,
Like,
it's not about breakfast,
okay,
because
so you're
otherwise,
asking a simple question.
imagine so.
Less pretentious.
We just saw a play
It's
about, I
less
don't know what,
pretentious.
about the
Right.
rape culture in the campus, and then alright, what did you like for breakfast? You don't do that. You ask a question that is related to the play that was just shown now. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yes.
I took you the breakfast example just as an example, just to show you how it works. But the question should be related to the issue. Questions about that? My voice is failing me a lot.
Do audience know in advance what the subject of the play is going to be, or is it sometimes?
Look, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on the audience. But it's always safer to think that some people will, some people will not.
Yeah.
That it's very rare that no people know at all, or that people, or that everybody knows. Yeah.
Is the aim of the questions to bring out the contradictions in the room?
Yeah. Yeah, and also to start on by through that making this warming up, making the debate start. When you see that there is a lot of debate already, then you can restart the play. But just to really stress this thing that I believe is important, you as a joker, the most important thing that you do is that you reflect the contradictions of the audience. Thanks a lot. That was very cute. Thanks. Yeah.
Does the Joker introduce their own role? Like, how much information is given about what the intention of the Joker is?
I don't think that you should, because when you go to, because of forum theater, I like the forum theater to be a lively experience, no? And I think that if you explain too much, you kill a little bit of the joy of it. If you go to a football game, since we're nearby, you don't explain all the rules before the game starts. People want to see the game. And maybe there's people that don't know the exact rules, but no matter, they will learn in the doing. I think it's better than you explaining all the things first. To do it in the process, if you have to explain something. Is it clear? Yeah, can I move forward? So now we restart. How to restart? There is people that go directly to the point of replacement. There is people that prefer to restart from the beginning. Again, it's up to you. It's up to you, and it depends on how much time that you have, if the audience do know about forum theater or not, how long is the play, do know about forum theater or not. What does that mean? That means that an audience that already have the practice of the forum theater do not need a lot of time to get into action. While an audience that do not know about forum theater, it might be better to start from the beginning. So it gives them time to think about what's happening. Clear? What the Joker is supposed to do at this moment? I think that at this moment the Joker should no longer be invisible on one side, just looking at the things that are happening over there. At this moment he should be visible as a way to make the audience remember that they are not here to see the same play a second time in a row. They are here to take action. And the presence of the joker, looking at them, trying to see when there's an intervention, that's the moment in which, that's the role of being visible for the joker. I just forgot one thing. There is some rules that you need to explain, and this rule is obviously, we're going to see the same play again, and now when you have an alternative, when you see a possibility here that was not used by the protagonist, please say stop and come and replace the protagonist. So this rule you should explain.
So you say that after you saw the whole play, obviously you should set the point after the whole.
To explain this rule that I just explained,
Yeah, so after the,
I think again, it depends on the audience. It's not a crime if you forgot and then you're said just for the second time. But I think that if it's an audience that's not so used with forum theater, it's better to tell them at the beginning.
yeah.
And tell them, think like, look very attentively at this play. Because it might be not the best play of your life, but look very attentively to it. Because just after, when we finish, you will see that the protagonist will be defeated at the end. So just after, when we finish, we are going to restart the play, and this time, if you had an idea of what the protagonist should do differently to not get defeated, we are going to ask you to enter on stage, okay? So look with a lot of attention to the play, to see where there is other possibilities of acting than the one that was used by the protagonist.
Is it, they only get to replace the protagonist, or could they replace anybody?
Okay, so I'm going to answer you after a few other. I move into the forum field, and then I'll answer your question. So that being said, so the Joker is there. He's trying to be present, to be seen, as a reminder that people needed to replace the protagonist, to replace someone on stage. What to do if nobody asks to replace the person? First, let's be cool about that. Let me tell you one story. Once I was in a festival of Theatre of the Press, and there was a group that was performing about kids that they needed to decide. That's in Germany. Kids in Germany, as far as I understood, by that time at least, they needed to decide what's their professional motivation when they're 12 or something like this. Which obviously they're not deciding anything. They are reproducing what the parents are saying or the environments in which they're growing up. You're going to decide if you're going to be a butcher or a cosmonaut at 12, please. So they presented the play. And the play was very nice. There was a lot of intervention, a good debate. And then at the end I came and I said, it was amazing. What a fantastic play that you did. And they said, thanks a lot, because yesterday we performed in a professional school and none of the kids went on stage. Yeah, but where is more important to do this play? In a Theatre of the Press festival or in one of those schools? So maybe you will not have a lot of interventions, but still it's more important. Certain spaces are more important than others. I can make a play about, I don't know, the oppressions of women in Afghanistan here in Edinburgh. And then many interventions will arise. I do the same play in Afghanistan. Maybe not so many women will come on stage. Is it clear what I'm saying? Okay, so that being said, let's move forward. If nobody goes on stage, you can stop the play by yourself. You can stop the play by yourself, and again, you will instigate the audience to come on stage. You will ask that, but you really don't think that there is nothing to be done here? This situation exists, doesn't it exist? Here we in a space that is safe space in order to try alternatives, in order to try other things. If we don't try at least, we are sure that the situation will remain the same. We need to try just to show that the situation might change, that the situation can change, and start provoking the audience. Again, one story, I was living in France by that time. We performed in front of the Anarchist Union, and I'm not an anarchist at heart, so I was not so happy. I was okay to be there. And then we performed a play about sexual harassment in the workplace. And I was sure that all those anarchist unionists they were going to get on fire, that they were going to kill us on stage. Those anarchists, a little bit punk and stuff like this, they would destroy us. Nobody moved. Nobody moved. You could hear a fly in the room. Why? Because the anarchist union is very small. And then what happens? You are, that's something also here. Seriously, I thought it was only friends. No, I'm joking. So all of them never had the experience to show their practice as unionists to the others. So they were very scared of showing to the others what they actually did. You understand what I'm saying? One of them told me this interpretation at least, that they were scared to death to show to the others how they reacted. So I used the fact that I'm not such an anarchist to be really, for the anarchist union, those realities are acceptable. When there is sexual harassment in a working place, that's what you do. Nothing. That's what you're telling us, that you see those things and you don't react. You look to the side, and it was a little bit like this, and then one of them said, not exactly. And then he came on stage, and then we had another intervention, and then it worked well, and we make a recent reconciliation between anarchists and communists. It was anyway, that lasts for the play. So just telling you that you can stop yourself and provoke the audience a little bit. But let's suppose that yes, you are able to have, or you are able, that members of the audience are willing to come on stage. When there is a new intervention, what are you supposed to do? Nothing at first. Now there is something new. Now the public doesn't want to pay attention to you. The public wants to pay attention to what's going on stage. And then you are there outside the stage, but still you have to look a lot at what's happening there, but also to look a lot at what's happening over there. To understand if the audience have an interest in what's happening. Is it clear? Yeah. So the one trick that my father really used all the time, it was a trick to understand if the audience was interested in what was happening over there or lost interest in the intervention. How we would do that? And I think that again, it's a trick that it's a lovely trick, but I don't think that my father could use the trick. I'll explain you later. The trick is very simple. Get closer to what's happening. If people starting to look at you, it's because they want you to take action. If the people remain with their attention over there, it's because their attention is over there and you move backward. But yet again, everybody can do this trick, but maybe my father was the only person on earth that could not do it. Very famous person. With a hair big like that. A shirt with 1,000 colors. More on the heavy side of the spectrum, let's put it this way. Imagine the following scene. Everybody's looking at me? Why? So everybody would look at my father, and my father would always think that the Forum Theater was not so interesting. Anyway, so when to cut an intervention? When no, how to cut an intervention? There is many ways of doing it. At least two ways. That one of them is looking in the eye of the person on stage and trying to see if the person is willing to continue or to stop, and then ask directly to the person. If the person says, no, I'm okay, then we can stop at this point. If the person makes you a sign because she wants to continue, then you go back. The other one is very easy, is that everything in life goes like this, isn't it? There is points that are more interesting and points that are less interesting. At a point that is more interesting, you, the joker, stop clapping, the people will clap with you, and then you go, you take the members of the audience back to the audience, and then you start a discussion with the members of the audience. I don't think that is that interesting to ask to the person that was on stage, so how do you feel? Do you feel that you should achieve? Do you feel not? I think that now is That person said what she had to say. She was just on stage. Now is the moment in which there is a collective analysis. Again, closed questions. So, was it different from the previous intervention? Was it different from what the actor was doing? It was different. Yes? No? In what way? It was different because this person did this and that. All of us saw that? Yes? No? And there is something more to add. But do you think that in the street, because that was a theater, that could have worked? Here it didn't work, but do you think that in the street it could work? Yes? No? Why? The same thing of the breakfast thing, right? And it's also a way to get another person to intervene, and another person to intervene, and another person to intervene. So your question, I forgot your name. No, I remember your question, I forgot your name.
I remember my name, but not my question.
So we are complementary. A match made in heaven. So your question was,
Could it be non-protagonist?
could it be non-protagonists being replaced on stage? So, for instance, can it be an oppressive character? Can it be an oppressor? Can it be an ally? One of those possible allies that are on stage, people that are oppressed but not joining. Can it be them? I always allows it. I always let that happen once. Why? For people to understanding that there is no point in doing it. Maybe you saw, well, anyway, I will come back to that later. So, once I was making a workshop in, where was that? It was in Canada. I told this story not that time, a long time ago. Was it here? No, it wasn't here. It was in another workshop. When I make too many workshops, I get confused. What happened? What happened is that it was my father that was supposed to go. And then he got ill, a little illness at that time, and he could not join. So I was asked to replace him 3 days before the beginning of the workshop. Imagine the happiness of the participants. They were, we paid for a wall, but not that wall. And then we had a workshop that it was, they gave me shit, basically, I think, but at the end it was okay. And then we went to present for an audience that 300 people came because they were expecting my father to be there. Imagine how happy they were. It was terrible. There was a poster with the picture of my father, Augusto Boal written, and then they, Augusto and put Julian. Terrible experience, terrible. I had to say, this is not me with a hangover, right? That's my dad. And then I started the thing, and one of the plays that we performed that night was a play that maybe today will not agree so much on doing it like this. A play that was about a woman that would bring her kid to the working space because that night, that day she didn't have a kindergarten, or I forgot what was the reason. She brings that at her working place, a coffee, and then the owner complains, the customers complain, everything is not good for her, till the moment that, at the end of the day, the owner says, look, no worries if you don't have childcare tomorrow, because you're fired. And then let's restart the play and let's have intervention. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interventions, I don't know how many. Till the moment that I see a woman that she raised her hand. And I see that she has the feminist sign on her chest. And that's 15 years ago. And I think that we will agree that 15 years ago the feminist movement was not as strong as it is today. And I was extremely happy to see that woman, and she had a, let's call it a punk haircut or something like this, and I was wonderful. She's an anarchist, there's a use for that. She's going to come on stage and she's going to explode everything, everything's going to explode, and that's going to be wonderful. So please come on stage, So at what point of the play do you want to enter? I want to enter at that point, but I want to replace the boss. And in front of 300 people that were absolutely not happy to see me, with the woman already on stage, I was extremely brave. I said, yes, you can, do it. She replaced the boss. And she made a boss that was so nice, that the boss arrived on the working place, saw the worker, picked up his phone, and mother, how are you? Good. What are you doing today? Nothing. Why don't you come at my coffee place and take care of the kids? And then it was very easy for me, as a facilitator, to go to the audience and say, look, I know that in Canada everybody's so nice. But do you have bosses like this? And then I heard 300 people saying, no, we don't. So let's change it from the perspective of the person that's trying to change. Let's change it from the perspective of the oppressed and not of the other person. And this, what I said over there, is true also for the possible ally. If we make someone that was in the struggle, but now he is burnt out from the struggle, and we replace by a Bolshevik that wants the revolution the next week, okay, but we are not dealing with the issue of those people that were burned from the struggles. You understand what I'm saying? Don't they exist, those persons that were burned from the struggles? They do. How do we address them? How do we talk to them? Replacing and making magically a very strong ally, someone that wants to go to the fire for a line, is not going to change a lot the situation. Can be a good for hard for a second, but it doesn't teach us, we don't learn anything about how concretely to do those things. Is it clear what I'm saying? Yeah? Yeah, that being said, so yes, I allow the replacement once, I let the replacement happen once in order for the people to understand why that doesn't work. I don't know if Gavin was there once. I was in a PTO, and then I did exactly the same thing with, they created a character of a general. They wanted to have a general on stage. Okay, and then someone replaced the general to make a pacifist general. And then I came to all those people from the US and say, a pacifist general is something that doesn't exist. Yes, it exists, because last week one of them wrote a letter. I'm glad I don't live over there, but so what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that those things are tricks. They don't work 100% of the time, but I think that they have the tendency to work. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Do you ever offer the opportunity for the audience to hot seat a character?
I would prefer. You can.
Not
if you want.
the protagonist, but like an oppressor or an.
You can, but then the hot seat. Do you know what's that? The hot seat. The hot seat is to have the character being seated, and then you have to answer as a character. So you, I don't know which character. Hamlet's father. Everybody says that you're a perfect human being. Why are you in hell? And then you have to answer as a father, as the Hamlet's father. I am in hell because of this and this and that. So you need to answer as a character. I think that the play should say it. That there is no need for the hot seating. The play should show those things. And the hot seat also have a tendency. It was created by Stanislavski. That's an admirable thinker of the field, practitioner of the field. But they have a tendency to lead the people to think that it's only because of inner motivation that you're like this and like that, and not by the social relationship. Have this tendency. So that's why I wouldn't use it so many times. Yes?
What about, sorry, I ran out, so maybe I missed it. Like we did the other day, like adding a character.
Okay.
Yeah, to what extent would you
No,
support
that I think it's okay. I want to see a lawyer. I want to see a unionist. Then you can even ask the audience. Is there members here in the audience that do know something about lawyers? Maybe there's a lawyer here. So, bring that person on stage and make that person act as what she thinks that character would act. Once I was in Portugal, we need a unionist, and then there was a friend of mine that's very lefty, and then is there someone here that, so he came on stage, but he made such a good unionist that then I said, okay, all the unionists are like this in Portugal. No, they are not. So can we have another version of what a unionist is in Portugal? So I even asked twice the replacement for the public to not decide, but to have a debate on why the unions are like this, why the unions are like that, and that was helpful to have several versions of unions coming on stage. So that, yes, no problem, yeah.
I'm wondering, do you encourage people to share their own personal experience, especially about some sensitive issue like domestic violence? So how about the ethical consideration if people collapse too emotional?
No, I think that this is tricky. I can ask, but when it's not so personal, I cannot. Look, recently I was in Cork, and there was a play about eviction. And then before we started, as as a warm up, I asked to the audience, how many of you here know people that fear eviction, or yourself fear eviction? And then it was 90% of the room raised their hand, and I said, look at the room, have a look at the room. As a way to underline the importance of it, importance of the issue. But then, is there someone here that knows about domestic violence? It becomes trickier because also you are not in an individualized process, you're in a collective process. And before someone opens up to an audience about this, it takes time, it takes a long process. So it's going to depend about the issue, how there is issues that are more sensitive to others. I'm not denying that being evicted must be terrible, but at the same time we don't have the same relationship that I was in a love relationship, and this love relationship turned into, you understand what I'm saying? So it's going to depend on that.
So do you do like trigger warnings for audiences if there is a sensitive subject?
I don't do that. This is something that is very new, and I needed to adapt myself to it still. I'm trying to. There is exercises that I didn't give you because I thought that I'm sorry. That I didn't give you because I think that there is a new sensibility that is rising. I wonder. Look, I think there is extreme. We're off the topic. So basically, I think that there is new cares that are extremely important that are done right now. At the same time, let's remember, just giving a very extreme example of how safe space can be weaponized. Very extreme example, that right now in the US, they are tearing down the anti-occupation camps because some students do not feel safe. So let's see to which extent this, there is new cares that we need to hear. I'm very happy that there is in theater now consultants of intimacy. And, or in movies, a woman is going to do a sex scene, and all of a sudden, all the producers that they are on the set. Those things used to happen. Now that there is intimacy consultant, those things are less happening than before. And that's great, that's amazing. But let's remember that, I don't know, the people that were in the bus rides, that went on the south of the US in order to make in such a way that the black people could vote, they were not feeling safe. They were not feeling safe in those buses. You know what I'm saying? So let's see how this is going to evolve, because complete safety is nothing, cannot be guaranteed, cannot even be desired from time to time. Again, those people in those buses, we have to pay extreme respect to them. They were not feeling safe in this bus. They were chanting so high in order to put their fears away, because there must have been big fear. You know what I'm talking about, no? The freedom buses. You know what was that. Okay, so I don't, maybe I should, I don't know, maybe I'm going to adapt from audience to audience. In Brazil, it depends on the subject, but till now I don't feel the need. I don't feel the need like in Brazil. Maybe you do here in your places. I don't know. No more questions? Then I just have to add one thing, is how to finish. I think the only question left is how to finish forum theater before people are exhausted. Again, it's going to depend on what kind of audience, what is the purpose. But if it's an audience, as many times it is, that is new to forum theater, that's going to see that for the first time, don't get the session be kidnapped by the serial interventionists that there is on the audience. The person that always have a new idea that, wants to keep on talking, oh, but have an idea. Don't do that, because you are losing the audience. Again, it's a balance in between personal talk and collective debate. And be sure that the balance is more on one side than in the other. In this performance in Canada that I was telling you about, there was 300 people, as I told you. There was a moment in which everything was getting in fire, a positive way, and that's the moment in which I stopped. Thanks a lot. This is a step towards, hopefully this is a step towards bigger struggles that cannot be contained on the stage. The moment of stage has finished. Hopefully it will give birth to other moments that will exist outside. Let's meet outside. And then I cut. When there was many people, 300 people, you can imagine 300 people with their hands raised, willing to go on stage. And I stayed in Canada for another workshop. I stayed a few more days in Canada, in Montreal. And the very last day before leaving, I was in an anarchist book fair, so you see. And there was one guy that was on the audience that day, and he came to me, he ran all the way to me, he grabbed my arm and he said, "Why did you stop at that moment? I had a fantastic idea, let me tell you about it." And the guy had spent, I don't know how many days, thinking with this thing stuck in on his head. So maybe even the fact of him not being able to realize on stage, made in such a way that he was having this idea on his head all the time, working on it. Is it clear what I'm saying? So try to reach a moment in which the thing is boiling. With my first group in Paris, we were working in migrant worker shelters. We performed the same play 3 times in a row. The first time there was almost the same number of people on stage than in the audience. We were 8, 10, there were more or less 8, 10 in the audience. The second time, 20 people came. The last time that we performed this play, before starting the workshop with them, there was 60 people. So also to stop at a certain point can create a need for coming another time and another time and another time. Okay, is it clear? Just one last thing that is not from the joker's perspective as a technique and things like this, but more on the political perspective. Try to never play to an audience. Try to never play to an audience. Try to, I don't know, we try in Brazil to never play to an audience. We try to perform in front of people that we are going to be working with after. So it's not just people that cross the door that day because there was light in. We do that from time to time, and I especially don't like it. I think that we should only focus in working with people that we are going to work with. The performance as a starter to something bigger. As a, by that I'm very inspired by Jana Sanskriti. They never perform, if not to create a group in the village where they perform. And that's how they became 30 groups. Each group performing for 10 villages. So that's how they became a strength that's able to talk with 300 villages.
Why don't you like performing to audiences?
Because then after you don't have contact with them. You don't have contact, you don't work after.
Could it not be that you've inspired them to think about it and that could be...
I think that, as we said, in our school, we open our school for non-activists at the moment that we understood that the school could be a way to organize those non-activists. Rage is good. Organized rage is better, because that will be the one that will be sustainable. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And also, okay, let's make I'm not judging any kind of practice, but let's just reflect about what it is to just perform once and then leave. So we perform in a school about, and again, it's something that maybe you are obliged to do this manner, I'm not judging. But let's reflect that it might lead you to a thing that my father was against, which is the, how you call that again? The relief. Catharsis, yes, thanks. It can lead you to the catharsis. You create a play about homophobia in a school. Then you will have some teenagers that are going to speak out loud. Yes, it's true. I am being bullied because of this, I'm being bullied because of that. And maybe they're going to even point out I don't know, the school itself is the place that bullies them the most. And then you are going to say thanks a lot. Goodbye. You are going only to put them back in the very situation that made the need for the relief. You understand what I'm saying? So I know that it's not something that we do on the People's Theatre School all the time. It's not something that any group can do all the time, I believe. But tendentially, if it's true that what is coming now is a rise of fascism, is a rise of the destruction because of the ecological catastrophe, to try to organize people might not be a bad idea. To try to be a catalyst for organization might not be a bad idea. Just saying. Okay? Is that clear? So this last one was not about jokering at all, but still is about the purpose of doing it. Do you have questions? Do you have comments very quickly? No, not necessarily very quickly, sorry. Yeah.
All of the jokering that I've done before and seen as being like one joker, I've always seen it and done it. But recently with Active Inquiry, we've been experimenting with having a team of jokers on stage, partly as a training tool that we're trying to train new jokers, but we've kind of discovered that there's something quite exciting about that in the sense of kind of sort of more democratizing the process and having less this sense of one strong charismatic character and more actually encouraging more debate and different voices. And I was wondering if you'd seen that done before, and if you have you seen any risks and opportunities with that way of working?
No, I've done it myself, I've done it, but only with another joker. A team of joker, I must say, I never done 4 or 5, I don't know how many. That I never done it, I never seen it neither, so I don't have a specific view about this. Again, yeah, it's true that in most case scenario, is the joker that is also the founder of the group that is present. But the joker in itself can be just a moment, and then you don't need to be inside your group with the founder, the person that leads everything. There's not a necessity in that. And also, you perform once, and then you are going to rehearsal, or it's not you that's there. So there's a moment in which there is a specific function, but what I'm trying to say is that this specific function is no longer than the performance itself. So maybe, you know, if people engage in other process, they will see that that person that was the joker at that point is not a big shot but why not to share it? I've seen it done wonderfully well by peers of jokers. I've seen it done not so well. I think that there was kind of a dispute between the jokers that were on stage. I'm not allowed to say any names. But you know, I've seen working well and working not well.
We would have been a collective of it. So we were working with each other and trying to be as one. But sharing it, it did work. Some people came.
Yeah, why not?
When you said about trying not to just one-off and you want to work with the community after, can you sort of have a strategy on starting with forum theatre to then lead to legislative theatre?
I don't do that. I don't do that with the theatre yet. I think it's at a certain point it will be something that we will have to do in the People's Theatre School. But till now we were more interested in rooting ourselves in different communities. Now we are. I forgot the number. I need to check it out. But it's either 8 or 9 groups that exist in different areas of Rio. But my criticism to my very own organization is that we do political theatre, yes, but we don't do activist theatre, we don't do militant theatre. We are not in campaign, so we have a better understanding of this, a better understanding of that, but we should be campaigning for certain things. We should be in campaign for this. And so I think that we should move to a more activist, a more militant way of theatre. And it's not so easy, let's see how it's going to work. And maybe legislative theatre will be one of the tools. But we need to understand also that legislative theatre was done at the moment in Brazil, that we just had our new constitution. And our new constitution was one of the most democratic that we ever had in Brazil. Not one of the most democratic. It was called the Citizenship Constitution, because in many projects of law, they passed because there was a people's initiative of signing, and when you reached a number that was 500,000 people, then you could, the chamber had to discuss about it. And many of those laws were voted. So the Brazilian constitution is not bad, but the fact is that it's not so respected, and since then it was changed all the time. Every new chamber that entered made amendments in order to change the Brazilian constitution. Like, they do that all the time. And so my father had this idea in a moment in which the left had power in the chambers all over Brazil. When you don't have that power, how you organize people by not throwing a campaign that have an idea that we know that's not going to be realized? So how we do that? It's still something that we need to, by the practice, check it out. But maybe today's looking at the chambers, it might be not the best idea in Brazil, in Rio, right now to do legislative theater. Just again giving you the idea that the techniques are good or bad in relationship to a conjuncture. So we are not doing it, maybe we will do it, but what we need to do in any ways is to become militant theater, modern activist theater.
And can it be used as training for, say, like governments and decision makers? Can foreign theatre and legislative theatre be used as training for those making the decisions?
Yes, maybe, but I'm always, now quoting my father, a freedom that is taken is always stronger than a freedom that is given.
If you're foreign theatre, it's realised all of the impossibilities of these different avenues, all the ways people are trapped, actually better system needs to change. But then in that foreign theatre you don't then imagine the ways out of that system. How do you then come to do it in real life when you work with people after?
So if people are going to become as desperate as I am, that's what you're asking. Look, okay, let's start from the other way. So those plays in which the woman goes to the violent abuser and says, I'm leaving. The plays in which there is a policeman pointing at a black dude, a black person, and the person says, I'm a citizen, but like a gun in your holster. What kind of optimism do they foster? What kind of optimism do they foster? If we know that it's not real outside of the stage, if we know that, what kind of optimism? Then, what kind of optimism is fostered by the kind of play that I propose? I don't know. What I would say several things. One of them is that what I think that really makes the audience get upset with you is when the other characters do not move. They always repeat the same thing over and over. If there is movement, if they integrate somehow when the spectator is saying, proposing, and they try to move along with this idea a little bit, that it is not depending on the dramaturgy that I'm proposing, I think that always the key point is this, is to have the actors on stage change, twist a little bit, not give it up, but change a little bit. This is what is the key. Then there is the answer of Brecht sorry, it must be my first time today. So yeah, I'm getting better, I'm getting disintoxicated. But that's wrong with drug. Once you're an idiot, yeah, you want more. Maybe not more, but yeah. Anyway, so the thing is that, he shows Mother Courage. I've told you about the play Mother Courage. Mother Courage, she entered the place, with the three kids that are pushing the carriage, pulling the cart. She leaves, she's alone, pulling the cart, looking for a kid that we know is dead. She doesn't know, but we know she's dead. That kid is dead. the members of the Stalinist party looks at the play and then, oh, Mr. Brecht, your play is wonderful, your play is wonderful. There's just a little problem over there. She doesn't learn a single thing. In 1 hour and a half, she doesn't learn a single thing. She's as blind to her reality in the beginning as in the end. And then Brecht looked back at them and said, yes, she is. Maybe the audience is not. So basically, the question is why do we think that we need to see victory on stage to have more rage on the audience? You understand what I'm saying? Why do we equate one with the other? Maybe it's not such a simple equation. And the last thing that I would say is the following. The plays of ETP, if they are People's Theatre School, they might not be optimistic at all. The vast majority of our players are not optimistic. Because it's very hard to be optimistic in Brazil, in our beliefs. They are optimistic in our practice, because we are building optimism. We don't believe in optimism, we build optimism. It's a different thing. We were 7 years ago, we are more than 80 today. This is our optimism in practice. One day maybe we're going to become even bigger. Paulo Freire said, hope, esperança. I don't have hope, I don't have esperança. I have esperançar, which means it's a verb, that it created a verb out of hope. I'm hoping, no, it's not that I'm hopeful, it's a concrete thing, it's a concrete work. To construct hope is a different thing than to have hope. And we don't have hope. How can we in Rio de Janeiro? How can those people from Rio de Janeiro have hope? They can't to have hope. Which is even more beautiful to see those kids, those teenagers, those adults trying to build it, but concretely. This is the beautiful thing of ETP, one of the beautiful things of ETP. But that's the beautiful thing. We were 7, we are more than 80 now. Maybe tomorrow, let's see. We are trying to influence the lefty part on how we consider culture. We are trying to become activists, all of us, the militant theater groups, all of us. This is concrete hope. But we cannot have hope as an idea. This is something that, for the people that are working in Brazil, it would be a lie. It would be ideological. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Can you repeat the Paulo Freire?
Paulo Freire, well, bueno, te lo digo, I'm sorry, but in Latin language it's possible, and I don't understand how to make it in Anglo-Saxon. Eu não tenho esperança, o que eu tenho é esperançar. What I do have, I don't have hope, what I do have is the hope as a verb, hope as an action. You have to hope, but to embed it in action. Esperançar, you have to build it. To make hope possible. To have hope for Paulo Freire is to create the possibilities of hope. And not a state of mind, but a kind of specific actions, concrete actions. That would be the idea behind this quote. That hope as a belief is not strong. Hope as a practice might be not strong, but it's better.
I don't know if it's the same, it reminds me of what Bell Hooks says about love. Right?
Yeah.
Stop seeing love as a noun, but something that's just around, but as a verb, like a master practice.
Very likely, she was a student of Paulo Freire. Maybe, I don't know who took it from the other, but maybe they didn't. It was just closed-minded. Yeah?
Bit of a paradox though, because you seem to be doing the opposite in the sense of you're trying to get us to a place where we're seeing contradictions. So we're kind of abandoning hope, and we're looking at, that's what I've been doing, is kind of seeing the contradictions in any of these individuals and what stops us.
What I can tell is that maybe I've spoken about this network before, but there is a network of Portuguese groups and also with a Spanish group, and this network is called Oprima. And every year they meet in this Oprima meeting. And one year they were really upset with Forum Theatre. They were really upset because one after the other we would see plays in which the solution was too easy. To make the union a feminist, just vote for the right guy at the next time. To avoid, how you call that, sexual harassment in just look in the eyes of your sexual harasser. All those things that all of them knew that it was not true, that it was harsher than that. And then they were getting hopeless with Forum Theatre. The last night there was a performance of a group that's called the Black Skin, Black Masks. You know the book from Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Masks. So it was Black Skins, Black Masks, the name of the group. All of them are the sons of the immigration from Cabo Verde, from Mozambique, from Angola, from the former Portuguese colonies. And they were talking about the situation of their mothers. Mothers that were domestic workers, that were arriving at the end of their productive career, let's put it productive. They could no longer work, they were getting more than 60, and some of them had problems with their arms and things like this. And we see one of them going to the bus, and the bus saying to her, look, you were working illegally, that's how you said it. I was not paying for your retirement all those years. And I cannot pay for your retirement myself. What we can do is the following. Since your kid was raised with our family, why don't you ask your kid to replace you, and then you will still have the income in your house, and I will still have a worker. That we can do. She returns, it's a beautiful place, she returns and she says that to her daughter. The daughter have a wonderful speech, it's talks, it's not that I'm against talk all the time. She acted so well that she was, it's really enraged. You are telling me that you are going to sacrifice your arms because of me, that I'm going to keep on studying. But you think that you raised a monster. You will think that I'm going to accept the sacrifice. You think that after the university, I'm going to get a job. You think that racism was for your generation. I mean it. I will suffer racism. And I will not accept your sacrifice. A very beautiful and contradictory scene. A lot of interventions. We were enraged. There was no possibility out there. But at the same time, having to think hard about what the system is, having to fight hard against it, and seeing how hard it was, developed, paradoxically, contradictorily, a bigger hope with that if Forum Theatre can depict that, I want it. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So maybe it's the fake hopes that we need to leave behind. I mean, maybe not. Maybe fake hopes are good also. At certain points, they might certainly are. No, they might lead to beautiful things at the same time. I think that we are moving away from the thing, and I talked more than I expected. So let's have a break of 1 hour, and then we come back and we start.
Thank you. We're just going to do now.